All right, guys, welcome back to the Champion Mads channel. It's Maddie here. Today, I'm going to be talking about what I think are the best teams right now to play in ranked battles in Pokemon Champions. Pokemon Champions has been out for a few days now, and it's been a ton of fun. I know a lot of people have been grinding ranked battles, and I found myself that climbing up to Master Ball or Master Rank in Pokemon Champions can be kind of difficult. And I know there's probably a bunch of videos on the internet of people uploading different teams, but what I want to start doing on this channel more regularly is highlighting other top players' teams who actually do extremely well in online tournaments. If you don't know, there's obviously the in-game ranked ladder for Pokemon Champions, but there's also online grassroots tournaments that people play in every single day, and it's a great place to get some good inspiration for some really, really awesome and unique and creative teams for Pokemon Champions. So that's what we're going to do. I have 5 decks that all got, I think, like first place in online tournaments or had very, very good records. Each team is unique, and I wanted to highlight them. And I did, of course, put down the names of the players who we got these teams from. So if any of these players are watching this video, or if you know these players, give them a big shout out. Now, the one thing I will say is that whenever we take a look at teams online from the tournaments, we don't have all of the information. It is going to give you, of course, the Pokemon, the type, and the item, and all of the moves that they use. But the stat investments are things that we are going to have to go without or make some assumptions about. So again, if you guys have any good ideas about, which stats you should be putting in which Pokemon for any particular matchups or, any like particular advantages, just comment down below because that insight's going to be pretty useful. But anyway, let's get right into it. Also, this is a pretty new channel, so if you haven't subscribed yet, definitely hit the subscribe button. I really appreciate it, and definitely more Pokemon Champions content coming because I've had a lot of fun with the game and it's been very, very exciting. The first team that we're going to take a look at today is Ultra Vegito's team, and I love his name. That's his username on play.limitless.com. Also, on this website, I don't know if you guys, I should probably give a shout out. We're not sponsored, but this is pokebase.app. This is my favorite website for team building for Pokemon Champions. It has a lot of really great information. So the first team is going to be Ultra Vegito's team, and this is going to be a Mega Charizard Y Sun-based team. I personally love Mega Charizard. I think it's definitely one of the most popular Pokemon in the entire game. I get it, it's Charizard, but it's very good. Now, I would say that because it's so popular, there's been a lot of counterplay talking about Charizard or, counterplay towards Mega Charizard, and we'll talk about that a little bit more in this video. But we have Mega Charizard here. We have Whimsicott with Focus Sash. We also have a Farigiraf on the team with Citrus Berry. Not only does it going to have that Armor Tail ability, but what I really like about this team is that we have both Tailwind with Whimsicott and also Trick Room on Farigiraf, which is just, in general, really nice to have. I think that it's important because Charizard is actually a very awkward speed tier. There's going to be a ton of Pokemon that can outspeed Charizard and just 1-hit KO with Rock Slide. Like, that's been a really common thing in the meta right now. As we see, this shows, I think, Charizard's speed as 120, but Mega Charizard only has a base speed of 100, which really isn't that fast. Things like a Garchomp will outspeed. I could be wrong about that. About like the individual stat points, but Mega Charizard does get outsped by a lot of different Pokemon, and that's kind of a big deal. But we also have White Herb Sneasler on this team. You're going to see that a ton. I honestly think that Sneasler is like the strongest non-Mega Pokemon in the entire game. Absolutely ridiculous. Not only can you fake out, but close combat is going to deal a ton of damage, and then White Herb is going to activate. And because of the Unburden ability for Sneasler, after you use close combat, or even if you get a stat dropped by Intimidate, not only is the stat nullified by White Herb, but also it disappears, activates Unburden, and then your speed on Sneasler is doubled. And if you take a look at Sneasler's stats here, I know it might be kind of small on the screen. It has 140 base speed, which is just ridiculous. When the speed gets doubled with Unburden, this Pokemon is actually outspeeding a lot of basically every other Pokemon in the game, even through Tailwind, which is absolutely ridiculous. We also have Choice Scarfed Garchomp, and this is probably for other Charizards. Choice Scarf is going to catch a lot of people by surprise. I personally love Choice Scarf in the game right now. It's the only choice item, but I think it's a good choice item to have, because you never really know if your opponent, has a scarf on one of their Pokemon. It's a great thing to catch your opponents by surprise and basically outspeed them when they think that you won't outspeed them. So Choice Scarfed Garchomp here. We do have the Rock Slide. That's going to be really nice for opposing Charizards, but Garchomp pairs really well with Mega Charizard because you can spam that Earthquake. Charizard is immune, right, to the ground type attacks of Earthquake, mostly just because it's a flying type, of course. But that's really strong. To have a Garchomp hitting Earthquake and then Charizard spamming Heat Wave, hitting both opponents, gonna be absolutely incredible. Just a ton of damage. Garchomp ends up being an incredible partner for Mega Charizard. And then, of course, we have King Gambit with the Black Glasses. I've been playing Black Glasses King Gambit. I like this set so much. This Pokemon, also one of the strongest non-Mega Pokemon in the entire game. Also going to work really good in Trick Room with Farigiraf. So you might be kind of confused why we would need a Trick Room user on this team. Again, like I said, Charizard is actually getting outsped by a lot of different Pokemon. And that is relevant. It's Mega Charizard slower, so it's really not like that fast of a Pokemon. So it's interesting. You can protect turn 1 with Charizard, and then you can go ahead, put up Trick Room, and then you can kind of bring King Gambit. Going to be a pretty solid strategy if, of course, the Tailwind stuff isn't going to work out for you. But yeah, Black Glasses King Gambit is absolutely ridiculous. This Pokemon is so crazy. If you can get up a Swords Dance, a Sucker Punch from a max attack invested King Gambit is just, with Black Glasses especially, is just going to KO like everything in the entire game. Absolutely incredible Pokemon. So this team is super strong. And like I said, we don't know the stat investments. I think for Charizard specifically, it's not that worth investing in your defenses because you will just go down to like any rock type move. So I think what most people do is just invest max in their speed and into their special attack. And then the rest, I don't know, you could probably just put into like, special defense or something like that. This is probably how most people are playing Charizard. Of course, we're definitely playing Solar Power and not, oh wait. Yeah. No, okay, sorry. This is, these the abilities for Charizard? No. Okay. So that's, that's the thing. It doesn't show the abilities for Mega Charizard, but that's obvious, I would suppose, because it only has like the one ability, right? In Drought. But anyway, okay. I love this website. And if you look over here on the right, what I really love about this website is it shows you your weakness and strength like breakdown. So you can kind of see like as you build out your team, what things what types your Pokemon throughout your entire team are able to cover or not cover. And as you see, the coverage for this team is absolutely incredible. This is a really big deal when you're building teams. We have all of our total weaknesses throughout all of our different Pokemon, and then we have our total strengths. And as you see, we have a lot more strengths than weaknesses on this team. And the only types that this team will struggle with is flying type. We only have one Pokemon that can hit flying type for super effective. That is probably going to be the Rock Slide with Garchomp. And then here, ice types. We only have one attack or one Pokemon that can hit super effective to ice types, and that's going to be Charizard, right, with Heat Wave. Actually, no, because we have Rock Slide Garchomp. I'm not actually sure. Is this, oh, no, it's resists. Yeah, okay, so we have resistances because we have some ice resistance. So that makes sense. Okay, so it's weaknesses and resistance, not what you're strong against. But anyway, you can see that basically the cumulative total here is really good. So the coverage is absolutely incredible on this team. Flying is going to be a little bit tough, and so is ice type attacks, but we do have King Gambit to resist ice. So I really like this team. I think it's absolutely brilliant. And like I said, Mega Charizard is going to be everywhere. Definitely counterplayed a ton right now, but this is probably my favorite Mega Charizard team that I've seen. And Ultra Vegito, I believe, got first place at a pretty large tournament with this deck list. So very creative. Yeah, shout out to Ultra Vegito. Comment down below what you think of this team. Next up is going to be Benny V's team. And this is going to be a Mega Frosslass team. I think Mega Frosslass is one of the better new Mega Pokemon. What I really like about Mega Frosslass is that, of course, it puts up the snow. And snow's been buffed in recent generations, right? It used to be hail, but now, of course, it's just a different weather effect. And it gives, I believe, a defense boost to all Ice-type Pokemon. That's not, like, super relevant. I've seen a lot of people running what is it, like Aurora Veil on their Frosslass, but most of the time this thing is super fast, does a ton of damage. You don't really need to click Aurora Veil. It can be useful in certain scenarios, but for the most part, I think Aurora Veil is probably going to be more of a niche option on Frosslass, but it's probably more valuable on things like Alolan Ninetales, which we will see later on. This team here has Basculegion, another absolutely absurd Pokemon. Also, I think it's showing just normal Rotom here, but I'm pretty sure this is supposed to be Rotom Wash. So let me just swap this out real quick. Because when I import the teams, it probably gets certain things kind of wrong, right? So Rotom Wash right now is also one of the better Pokemon in the entire game. I think it's absolutely incredible. The moves that this team, or that Rotom Wash typically runs is Will-O-Wisp to burn your opponent to drop their attack. Thunderbolt as a very consistent attacking option. Where is it? Thunderbolt. We also run Hydro Pump, which sometimes misses, but is just an incredible attack. Does a ton of damage. And then lastly, I assume they just play Protect most of the time. And this is kind of the set. Rotom's really nice because it has Levitate. And then oftentimes, I believe, if we check here, it's probably playing... actually, what is this? I wonder what the item is. It didn't transfer over. It could be Leftovers. Could be... that's actually a really good question. We'll just assume it's Leftovers. But I can't be entirely sure about that. Sorry, it didn't import over properly, but... Yeah, no, this is a really, really fun team. This is going to be a mega Frosslass team. Frosslass here is playing Blizzard, Shadow Ball, Taunt, and Protect. And the speed from Frosslass makes the Taunt actually very valuable. Sometimes a lot of Pokemon right now, like especially Tailwind users, are priority Tailwind users. Things like Talonflame, right, with Gale Wings gets priority, but also Whimsicott. So Taunt is not going to be... it's not going to go first before those priority Tailwind users, but there's a lot of scenarios where Taunt's going to be useful. And I think these Ghost-type Pokemon, which can't get fake-outed, are honestly really good lead-off options in the game because Sneasler, one of the most common lead-off Pokemon in the entire game. This Sneasler here is actually running Focus Sash, so that's the other way that you can play Sneasler. I personally think White Herb is a little bit better. There's still a lot of Intimidate leads, namely things like Incineroar. But I also think that Focus Sash is going to be a pretty decent item on Sneasler. It's really the only other item that people play. So again, the way that... this is Poison Touch? It is, okay. So it's not even a burden. It's actually Poison Touch, Focus Sash, Sneasler, which is pretty cool. So your opponent is forced to attack you twice. Pretty likely that they're going to get poisoned here. And then through Dire Claw, Close Combat. It's definitely valuable. Sneasler is just so broken because it's so fast anyway. The Unburden boost is nice into Tailwind teams, but you know, Poison Touch with Dire Claw is going to be really, really annoying. You're going to inflict a lot of statuses on your opponent. And then Clefable. I think Clefable is actually very underrated alongside Frosslass because you do get Follow Me. It's one of the few, I guess, like meta redirection Pokemon in the game. There is another option, which we'll take a look at next. But for the most part, I think Clefable is very underrated, incredibly bulky, but has pretty decent special attack. So that Moonblast coming out from Clefable is going to deal a decent amount of damage. It's actually kind of crazy. You also have Helping Hand and then Protect to Stall. One thing I would recommend for like basically every team, if you're playing on the ranked ladder, is to play Protect on like all of your Pokemon. This might not be like, I don't know if some people are going to agree or disagree with this, but what I found in grinding ranked is that being able to click Protect is incredibly important. Like there's just been so many games where if my opponent is playing a Trick Room team or a Tailwind team and I don't have a great way to play around that, or I don't have a way to stop them from doing that, then I can just sort of call out Protects and then extend the game like a couple of turns and then wait until their Tailwind or Trick Room runs out. And that's oftentimes a win condition. So I think running Protect on like all of your Pokemon is incredibly important. Again, a Choice Scarf user like Basculegion, you can't play Protect on, but that's okay because Basculegion is also one of the strongest Pokemon I've ever played with. This game certainly has like core Pokemon, like Mega Pokemon that you would build teams around. But there's going to be a lot of recurring Pokemon that aren't Megas that are just absolutely broken. Choice Scarf Basculegion is possibly my favorite Pokemon in the entire game. Here we're playing Icy Wind, which is really crazy. We're not playing the Aqua Jet. I still think Aqua Jet is pretty important. Again, in Tailwind, Basculegion isn't always going to outspeed. It does have 98 base speed here, but... like I said, with Choice Scarf, it's going to be pretty quick, but if your opponent gets a Tailwind up, you're going to get outsped a lot. The thing about Basculegion is it's actually pretty tanky. This Pokemon lives hits like no tomorrow. So even though we're Choice Scarfed, the adaptability means that basically our same type attack bonus attacks deal double damage instead of 1.5, which is pretty crazy. The super high attack stun on this thing, you know, you can Flip Turn, which is a 60 base power water type move. That's basically like a U-turn or a Volt Switch. Very, very strong. I love leading Basculegion and then clicking Flip Turn. Also a Ghost type, so it can't get fake outed by things like Sneasler and Incineroar, which is a really, really big deal. But yeah, Last Respects is one of the silliest moves in the entire game. If you don't know what Last Respects does, this is a move that has 50 base power, but for every Pokemon on your team that has gotten knocked out throughout this game, it does an additional 50 base power. So if two of your Pokemon have gotten KO'd, and then you go into Basculegion, this thing has 150 base power. With adaptability, that's 300 base power. absolutely ridiculous. This Pokemon is so crazy. It's so crazy. Wave Crash as well is 240 base power water type. This thing is an absolute beast. Sometimes it does get one-hit KO'd, but a lot of times it's living attacks. And that's what I really think is crazy about some of these Pokemon. Things like Sneasler, things like Kingambit, things like Basculegion are super strong Pokemon, but oftentimes don't get one-hit KO'd. Like, I just noticed that about these Pokemon. They just live hits. Of course, Kingambit will go down to like a fighting type attack, but basically anything else, this thing has 140 defense. Like, if you're not getting close combated by a Sneasler, you're probably not going down. Like, you're just going to get an attack off. And that's why I think the Swords Dance Sucker Punch combo with Black Glasses on Kingambit, again, just like we saw on that previous team, is absolutely ridiculous. Rotom Wash is just a good Pokemon. Typically, we see it on, or I've seen it on like ground type teams or teams with Garchomp that can click Earthquake because it has Levitate, so it's immune to Earthquake. But Will-O-Wisp, Thunderbolt, Hydro Pump, a very bulky Pokemon, 127 in both its defenses and special defenses, so it's just going to live hits. Decently fast, has decent special attack. This is a really great toolkit Pokemon, and like I said, if they disrespect the Rotom Wash and they get hit with a Will-O-Wisp, then that's going to change the game pretty dramatically because a lot of Pokemon do not want their attack to be reduced after they get burned, and that's, of course, the main aspect of Will-O-Wisp, plus the chip damage. I will say Will-O-Wisp ends up missing more times than you would definitely want it to. I feel like it always is like that, so I'm not a big fan of clicking Will-O-Wisp, but it is going to be really effective. So shout out to Rotom Wash here, and yeah, Mega Frosslass, super fast, really great special attack. That Blizzard is going to deal a ton of damage, and keep in mind, when the snow goes up with Mega Frosslass, Blizzard never misses, and that's a really, really big deal. Also has a chance to freeze, so, you know, all of those players playing Mega Frosslass, I know they absolutely pop off when they catch a freeze from Blizzard. It's pretty crazy. But yeah, I love Taunt on a fast Pokemon like this. I really do like Taunt. The issue with Mega Frosslass, in my mind, is things like Kingambit, which are just generally going to be able to lock it from doing anything with Sucker Punch. So that's my experience when I've tried to play Frosslass, is that oftentimes I just kind of get locked in bad positions by, you know, by a Sucker Punch Kingambit. I'm not able to click the attack button, but that's what Taunt's really good for. It allows you to basically not get locked into either having to switch or get KO'd by Sucker Punch. I really like this team. Mega Frosslass is an interesting Pokemon. You can play it a lot of different ways. I know that Wolf Glick uploaded a video recently with like Orthworm and Shedtail into Frosslass, and that's certainly really, really fun. I think Frosslass is just a useful Pokemon, really fast, and hits very, very hard. The next team I want to take a look at is a very interesting team. This is going to be Polito A7's team. Again, another deck that got first place at a tournament. This is going to be a dual Mega Pokemon team, and I think that this is something that people should utilize more so, especially in ranked, because a lot of people don't know which one you're going to bring. So if you don't know, you can actually technically bring or have more than one Mega Pokemon on your team. You can just only Mega Evolve once during a battle. So even though we have two Mega Pokemon, we can choose which one we want to bring depending on which one is stronger in the matchups. Now, we all know that Mega Floette is absolutely broken. This is going to be the Calm Mind build here with Dazzling Gleam and Moonblast. This is the most common build. I think if you can get a Calm Mind up with Floette, it's probably just going to KO almost anything in the game. This is 175 base special attack with Fairy Aura Moonblast. You're just going to KO things that you really shouldn't even KO, and that's really the power of Floette. It's probably the hardest hitting like attacker in the entire game. Absolutely ridiculous. And again, the special defense is through the roof as well. So basically, if you get that Calm Mind up, you're going to be extremely tanky. I've even seen some people play Draining Kiss on the Floette just to make it keep it alive for that much longer. So Floette's going to be really valuable. However, Sneasler is a thing. So I played a lot of Mega Floette on the ladder because it was so broken, but then I ended up facing a bunch of Sneaslers, and those Sneaslers there with Dire Claw are just going to KO you, and they will outspeed you and stuff. So that's kind of the tricky part about Floette. But what I absolutely love about Polito A7's team here is that he's also running Mega Delphox, because I personally swapped from running Mega Floette to running Mega Delphox to deal with those Sneaslers. Sneasler is literally, I think, the best Pokemon in the game, but Mega Delphox, very underrated. Very similar stat lineups, actually, to Floette. It's a little bit less bulky on the special defense side, and has a little bit less defense here, but it's a lot faster. So Mega Delphox, if, you know, Sneasler hasn't got the Unburden boost, is actually going to outspeed. This is a fire and psychic type Pokemon. Delphox is super good to deal with Sneaslers, but it's also going to be really good into your opponent's Charizards. Really good special defense, and we're a fire type. So we're going to be able to absolutely soak up those heat waves from Charizard, and that's a really, really big deal. The substitute is broken. If you can get a really solid call out here with Substitute, then effectively your opponent can never even one-hit KO Delphox, even if it's at low HP. This is a really awesome attack. Heat Wave, just like Charizard, to hit both opponents, and then Psychic. And Psychic is just an incredible attack here on Mega Delphox. I love this Pokemon. I think it's incredibly well positioned into the overall metagame. Incineroar makes an appearance. There's 3 teams here with Incineroar. The first teams we highlighted didn't have Incineroar, but I still think Incineroar is still one of the best Pokemon in the entire game. Fake Out, Parting Shot, Flare Blitz, and Throat Chop. Most people playing Throat Chop, I would assume. However, don't sleep on what's the other attack? It's Darkest Lariat. Darkest Lariat is honestly like kind of a beast as well. But Throat Chop, a little bit more applications here. It's going to basically turn off your opponent's sound-based moves for a couple of turns. Really, really strong. But yeah, Incineroar also is just... How do I even describe Incineroar? It's so funny because I think we all understood and heard the stories about Incineroar, but getting in and playing it, I feel like my Incineroar never gets one-hit KO'd. I don't know if I've ever seen an Incineroar go down to a one-hit KO attack, like maybe to like a close combat from Sneasler, maybe a Wave Crash from a Basculegion, but there's really not many times where Incineroar does just gets one-hit KO'd. It happens basically never. But yeah, a really great Fake Out user. Parting Shot is broken. Intimidate as an ability. So against any physically defensive team, it's going to be probably your best support Pokemon. And if you notice, things like Floette and Delphox, incredibly special defensive here, right? So Incineroar is going to pair extremely well with these Pokemon because they're going to nerf those physical attackers if you swap in, get them Intimidate, other than, of course, King Gambit, right? So King Gambit is definitely Delphox's worst enemy, but we do have some other options for that. You'll also notice Aerodactyl. I need to talk about Aerodactyl because I think this is one of the most slept on Pokemon in all of Pokemon Champions. Focus Sash, Unnerve. So if you don't know what Unnerve is as the ability, this means your opponent's Pokemon cannot use their berries as their items. Now, there's very limited items in Pokemon Champions, so basically every team has like Pokemon running 2 or 3 berries, so having Unnerve as an ability is actually very, very good right now in Pokemon Champions. But Aerodactyl, super fast, 150 base speed. This is going to outspeed things like Sneasler, and just like Charizard is another big one. Like, it's super fast. Also, really good attack, right? So things like Rock Slide are going to just KO like a Charizard before they're even able to attack. And again, we do have Focus Sash, so even if we do get outsped or whatnot, you're able to, of course, live the hit regardless. And then we have Protect. Protect's important because, Fake Out, Lead. Leading Aerodactyl is a really good choice because you can't just open up with Double Protect. You can kind of wipe out the Fake Out possibility, and then we can go ahead and start Rock Sliding things like Charizard. Oftentimes, those Charizard leads are playing like the Whimsicott Charizard, and they'll Protect Charizard turn 1, and then go ahead and hit with the Tailwind. Yeah, Aerodactyl going to be a really, really great option right now. One of the strongest Focus Sash users in the entire game. Great typing. I know the typing doesn't seem that good, but like offensively, the typing is kind of crazy. Dual Wing Beat will be able to KO Whimsicott through Focus Sash, which is a very, very big deal because, of course, you hit twice with Dual Wing Beat. So I really love Aerodactyl. I think it's actually one of my favorite Pokemon in the entire game right now. I'm putting it right up there with the Focus Sash Basculegion in terms of its applications. We also have Maushold on here with Choppleberry. So mostly here to kind of live fighting type moves. I don't know if Maushold will still, even with Choppleberry, will live a close combat from a Sneasler. Maybe it will if you invest in the defenses for this thing. But this has Friend Guard. And Maushold's always been one of the more effective support type Pokemon. Friend Guard means that basically the damage that your opponent deals to the other Pokemon that's on the field is reduced. So it protects your opponent's Pokemon. Also follow me to redirect that damage. So going to be really nice to kind of protect from like spread moves, but also single target moves you can just redirect to yourself. Super Fang is broken. So it's basically just, it does 50 damage to a full HP Pokemon. Really, really important. So if you can't just want to kill one of your opponent's Pokemon, like if it's really tanky, you can Super Fang it and just bring it down to half health. We also have Taunt because this Pokemon is pretty quick as well. I love Maushold. I think it's very underrated. And then here we're actually playing White Herb Garchomp. This might be specifically for Incineroar leads. I'm not sure. Or any Intimidate lead in general here because we have no way to kind of wipe off the White Herb other than just getting intimidated. But, Incineroar is a very common lead, so Garchomp is going to be really, really effective. You kind of come in here, you kind of wipe off the Intimidate, and then you can click the Earthquake button, especially when you lead off with Aerodactyl. So I love this. I love this team. I think that it's very creative. I think Floette and Delphox have great synergy synergy with each other. As we know, Garchomp is super broken. And the Maushold tech is very interesting. Aerodactyl is super slept on. So this was a very, very creative team. And I think a lot of people are sleeping on Mega Delphox. Look at the coverage here. So water type's going to be definitely a weakness for this team for sure. But other than that, very, very great coverage all across the board. Rock type as well is going to be a little bit scary. A couple of our Pokemon don't like getting hit with rock type moves, but that's also kind of where Garchomp comes in. Very, very cool. Okay, next up here is going to be another dual Mega team. This is going to be Magnet Man's team, and this is going to be a Mega Tyranitar, also Mega Floette team. So just like we saw previously, Incineroar pairing extremely well with the Calm Mind Floette, this combo is just super, super good. And again, we are playing this Wash Rotom, Citrus Berry, Levitate, and that's going to allow, of course... actually, we're not even playing Earthquake. That's crazy. I just noticed. I thought Excadrill would definitely be playing Earthquake here because we have the Levitate ability on Rotom Wash, but I suppose this is just a useful toolbox Pokemon in any team. So just going to be a really nice inclusion. The typing is incredible. So I think that just having the water coverage is a really big deal. This is a team that does have the Grass, Fire, Water core, which you might have heard in the past if you have one Grass, one Water, one Fire Pokemon. You're going to be able to resist basically anything, or of course, KO, or hit for weakness on most things, right? So very important. But this is another Mega Floette team. So you can go the Mega Floette route, or you can go the Mega Tyranitar route. And I think Mega Tyranitar is very slept on. Tyranitar is interesting because it's also one of the strongest non-Mega Pokemon. So most people play Tyranitar, but don't really need to Mega Evolve. But I think Mega Tyranitar is an absolute beast. It's got insane bulk and incredible attack. So basically, that Mega Tyranitar Excadrill Focus Sash combo is going to be extremely dangerous. We also have Sinistra. We haven't talked about Sinistra yet, mostly because I think Sinistra is also one of the best support Pokemon in the entire game. One of the other Pokemon with redirection. Rage Powder works just like Follow Me, although there are some Pokemon that are going to be immune to Rage Powder, I think. Yeah, we also have Strength Sap. So very similar to Clefable. Very, very bulky, but it's got the Hospitality ability, which is another absolutely broken ability. When you swap in Sinistra, it's going to heal the Pokemon next to Sinistra that you swap it into by, I think, 30% or 25% of its health, which is really broken. So a ton of healing. You can also swap in and out here. You can swap between Sinistra and Incineroar. Going to be an incredibly effective combo to keep things alive, like Mega Floette or even things like Tyranitar. Also, Sandstream on the Tyranitar is pretty cool because basically, like, Tyranitar itself puts up this the sand, but if your opponent brings in a Pokemon like, a Pelipper or whatnot that's gonna, change the weather, or like a Torkoal, then you can Mega Evolve and then re-put up your sand. So I actually really like Mega Tyranitar for sand-based teams. Sand also boosts the special defense of all Rock-type Pokemon. So Tyranitar here in the sand is such an absolute beast. It's so hard to get rid of this thing. Now, it is quad weak to fighting, so that is the main thing about Tyranitar, but we have Sinistra as a ghost-type Pokemon, Floette here resists fighting, and then Rotom Wash is also going to eat up a fighting-type move, so I think that this team is pretty well covered. Sand Rush on the Excadrill, going to have double speed, very, very quick. You're going to be able to spam things like Rock Slide into Charizard, or high horsepower into Excadrill. That's the other thing about Tyranitar that you can't forget about. A lot of people might not be expecting the Mega Tyranitar. So if your opponent clicks to Mega Evolve their Charizard, then Tyranitar can just also click to Mega Evolve, and you should overwrite the weather because you're slower, so you're going to go second. I believe that's how it works. Pokemon Champions has some weird programming with the Mega Pokemon and the timing, but I really love this team. Machagacha also, and then Trick Room. So this is another Trick Room team. None of these Pokemon will likely have any speed investments here, but I really love this team. I think it's just super, super smart. Great coverage across the board here. Not a lot of weaknesses. Rock seems to be, or ground rather, seems to be really the only primary weakness, but as we see, Rotom Wash is immune to ground, and Sinistra is going to resist ground. So I think that this isn't even that big of a deal. Really love this team. Tyranitar's defense, it doesn't even matter anyway. Like, Tyranitar is eating up an Earthquake. It really is. Like, it's got 170 defense. This Pokemon is crazy. Very underrated. And again, unless you can hit this thing with like a fighting type move, like, you're probably in the clear. Going to be very difficult to KO this thing. It is weak to Fairy as well. So if you can remove the weather and then get, absolutely blasted by like a Floette, like, you're probably going to go down. But there's not that many things other than that are going to be able to kind of win the game here. So I really like this. I really like this team. Excadrill has great coverage in this metagame with high horsepower, Rock Slide, and Iron Head. Very broken. Don't sleep on the Focus Sash, by the way. Like, I've gotten caught off guard by Focus Sash Excadrill a lot of times. Just an incredible Pokemon when you pair it with Mega Tyranitar. So multiple things going here. But again, like, in a lot of scenarios, if you just bring Sinistcha, Rotomosh, Incineroar, and Floette as a 4 Pokemon core here, you're gonna be able to basically just sort of like infinitely stall into like most things. The only thing you're gonna be afraid of are those steel type physical attacks into Floette. But because Incineroar will be able to drop the attack of something like a Sneasler, although White Herb I guess will protect from that. But yeah, in general, just an incredible set here. Mega Floette is absolutely incredible, and this team's really all about keeping Floette alive, which is really smart. So again, Sinistcha, Incineroar, Floette, absolutely broken combo. Shout out to Magnet Man and his team. Okay, I think lastly, is this our last team here? I believe it is, yeah. Okay, so the last team we're going to talk about here is Gabriel Agatti's team, which is going to be a Perish Song Mega Gengar team. Now, this is another strategy that I think in general is really slept on, but this is one of my favorite Perish Song teams that I've seen, because you're not only playing Gengar with Perish Song, but we're playing Politoed with Drizzle and Perish Song. So we have double Perish Song users, and we also have basically like a pseudo Rain Slash team with Palafin, which is really, really cool. And Incineroar is always going to be useful in these types of teams, mostly because it's going to be able to intimidate and then keep Gengar alive for a little bit longer. Gengar here is running Protect, Perish Song, Shadow Ball, and Substitute. So the whole strategy here, if you don't know, Mega Gengar has Shadow Tag. So once you Mega Evolve and you click Perish Song, your opponent's not able to swap out their Pokemon, but you are, and that's a really big deal. So we can stall with Protect, with Incineroar here, with Fake Outs and Protect. We could also utilize Alolan Ninetales, so we have double sort of weather in here, and I think this is actually very, very smart. Focus Sash Ninetales here with Aurora Veil. So we're able to kind of put up the snow and wipe away our opponent's weather if we need to. But also we have Aurora Veil, which is going to basically buff the defenses throughout, well, I guess it's 3 or 4 turns of all of our Pokemon, further helping Gengar stay alive. And that is really kind of the core concept with this team. Now, again, you don't always have to bring Mega Gengar, and you don't always have to click Perish Song, which I think is really cool. And again, Politoed plus Palafin is going to be an incredible core. Palafin is a weird Pokemon because it is one of the strongest Pokemon in the entire game, but I don't think a lot of people are playing it, or relatively a lot of people are playing it, and I think because it's kind of hard to play. The 0 to hero ability is incredible, but it's also a little bit difficult, right? So you need to kind of lead off with Palafin and then swap out, probably with Flip Turn, Choice Scarf, so that, again, we're outspeeding most of the time, and we can kind of swap out if possible. And then when we come back in, we're just an absurdly strong Palafin, right? The hero form. Really strong Pokemon. What's kind of throwing me off about this team is the Volcarona. This is a very interesting tech here. I'm not sure why they chose to play Volcarona over some other Pokemon, but it is also playing U-Turn and Rage Powder. So I think it's just sort of another like kind of bulky pivot Pokemon. It's not using the setup Quiver Dance build. We have a Paso Berry, which is going to reduce the damage taken from water type attacks. So I think the concept here is redirection to kind of protect Gengar, but also kind of U-turning and being able to swap back out into things like Incineroar. Very, very cool. Like this Pokemon here is probably underrated. Volcarona has really decent special defense, but doesn't have great defense. So like this Pokemon is somewhat bulky, but it's just a little bit sketchy. Likely going to be a pretty decent partner with Incineroar, because Incineroar will drop the attack of certain Pokemon. But this team was very, very interesting. Like I just love everything that they got going here. It seems like it's kind of all over the place, but I honestly really like it. And again, the coverage here is really, really nice. Other than against rock-type Pokemon, which this team definitely is going to struggle with a little bit. But yeah, one of the more creative Perish Song, Shadow Tag Gengar teams that I've seen. So what I really like, honestly, if I'm playing Gengar, I really like the Politoed, tech in here with Palafin. I think that combo is really cool. Or also, of course, playing Alolan Ninetales and Incineroar alongside Gengar. That's going to be just a really effective strategy to keep your Pokemon alive for a very long time. So yeah. Really awesome team. Shout out to Gabriel Agatti's team. Very, very cool. And that's the video. What do you guys think? Do you like these teams? I know we didn't have like the stat spreads and the stat investments, but that's one of the skill expressions, of course, with Pokemon, is that you're able to kind of invest which stats you kind of want to, depending on, the build of the team and what you think is best. So, comment down below. What did you guys think of this video? Was it helpful for you guys? I've been really enjoying Pokemon Champions, and I want to highlight people's teams that do well in online tournaments, because I think it's going to translate really well to, of course, the in-game tournaments, but also the ranked ladder. It's not very often that games have such like a healthy like grassroots competitive tournament scene, and Pokemon Champions certainly does right now. So I think all of the data and the statistics and the results that we get from those tournaments are going to be very, very valuable. in us being able to basically, showcase teams. So comment down below if you guys like this video. We're going to do these types of videos a bit more on the channel. Again, I really enjoy talking about teams and highlighting them. So that's what this channel is probably going to be most of the time. I'll likely do a meta report video sometime next week where we kind of go over the results of a tournament, because I think that also could be pretty interesting. So anyway, guys, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you guys for watching. Peace out. Have a good one. We'll see you guys later. And yeah. Bye.